The Los Angeles Lakers are one of the most famous franchises in all of sports. And while they've become known for putting together some of the best rosters in the league and for their multiple championship runs in the last few decades, they hadn't been able to live up to their reputation in the last few years. Not long ago, the purple and gold had been going through what was perhaps the darkest episode in its history. And the fact the franchise managed to navigate its way out of it to return to its former glory and win its 17th championship had as much to do with what took place on the court as what it did off the court. And while LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Frank Vogel deserve a lot of credit for their effort, the championship run wouldn't have been possible without the leadership of Jeanie Buss, who a few years ago started the transition that allowed the Lakers to turn into one of the best teams in the league once again. Welcome to Courtside. Today, we're talking about how Buss was able to turn a team that was far from contention into NBA champions. Back in 1979, it had been 7 years since the Lakers had won their 6th championship ring, and while that was the second largest amount of NBA titles by a wide margin, it was still far away from the record of the Boston Celtics, who at the time had 13 championships of their own. However, things would start to change in the purple and gold's favor from that point on. Shortly after that year's draft ceremony, Jack Cook sold the team to Jerry Buss, who immediately became a fundamental piece in the success of the franchise. Under Buss, the Lakers became one of the most entertaining teams in the league, which was highlighted by the Showtime era in which they were guided by superstars Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. With a new identity and a roster full of talent, the team started its most successful run by winning 5 championships in the 80s, then followed that by going into a new era in which they won 5 more titles from 2000 to 2010. During that run, the Lakers were able to acquire some of the greatest players the league has ever seen, including Johnson, Kareem, James Worthy, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, Paul Gasol, who helped them close the gap with the Celtics and make the team arguably the most glamorous in the NBA. But by the start of the 2010s, the team started to decline and things only got worse when Buss's health deteriorated, ultimately resulting in his death on February 18, 2013. With the leader of their most successful era gone, things quickly went wrong for the team as they failed to regain their championship form and were forced to go into their first full rebuild ever. But then, Jeanie decided to take a step forward. She was one of Jerry's 6 children and, along with her siblings, inherited an equal share of her father's ownership while also taking on the role of president of the team. Jerry had long planned for Jeanie to be his successor, but his plan also included her brother Jim, who he expected would handle the basketball operations of the team, while Jeanie focused on the business operations. However, as the seasons went by, many of Jim's decisions as head of basketball operations were questionable at best, and they resulted in the team turning into one of the most mediocre organizations in the league, which became evident as multiple top-level free agents decided to pass on the chance to play for them. The Lakers, who had never missed the playoffs more than 2 seasons in a row, were continuously breaking their record for most losses in a single season in the years that followed Jerry's death, and were headed into their 4th straight season without a playoff berth, when Jeanie decided it was time to change things up. So, by February of 2017, she fired her brother, general manager Mitch Kupchak, and communications director John Black. She then installed Magic Johnson as president of basketball operations and hired Rob Pelinka as the team's new GM. The episode, regarded by some as a coup, turned into a legal dispute as Jim tried to take ownership away from Jeanie before her lawyers found a way to neutralize his attempts. However, as much drama as the franchise faced at that moment and in the following seasons, the move proved to be what the Lakers needed to return to contention. Immediately, the duo of Johnson and Pelinka made some moves to strengthen what at the time was the team's young core. They were also very clever in acquiring Kentavious Caldwell-Pope during that summer, as he was represented by no other than Rich Paul. Paul, who's also a close friend and associate of LeBron James, started to spend more time at the Lakers games and was often seen sitting along with Jeanie. The move was intended to help the team show Paul how they were looking to build a winning culture and to take the franchise back to its glory days. And as it turned out, it worked to perfection for LA. In the following summer, James became a free agent, and amid numerous rumors that talked about his interest in becoming a Laker, he decided to sign with the team on the first day of free agency following a meeting with Johnson. At the time, many questioned the move as they thought LeBron wouldn't be able to win in the Western Conference and thought he was focusing on expanding his brand instead of on winning games. However, as he revealed later, the first thing he said to Jeanie as soon as he had the chance was that he was going to put the franchise back where it belongs. Of course, as we all know, LeBron's first season with the Lakers didn't work out as expected as he suffered a major injury and the team had several chemistry issues following multiple reports that detailed how a potential trade would send most of their young core away. The fact that the team missed the playoffs for the 6th straight season, along with the way they handled the trade rumors and the sudden departure of Johnson at the end of the season, turned all the attention onto Pelinka as many people started to question his ability to be a good general manager. The acquisition of LeBron also started to receive numerous critics considering his age and the injury that took him out of the season. And even Jeanie started facing numerous critics as multiple reports that talked about how her close friends acted as the team's shadow owners started to surface. Still, even among such pressure, she remained confident in the team she'd put together and never doubted that either James or Pelinka were the right men to lead the team to a championship. Her composure immediately earned her the support of James and Paul, as they reunited with her during a meeting following their disastrous first season together and told her they had their back and would help the team get through all the drama. Then Pelinka showed he was the right man to be at his position as he was able to complete the trade that brought Anthony Davis to the team. He surrounded him and LeBron with a capable supporting cast after Kawhi Leonard decided to join the Clippers and signed Frank Vogel to be their new head coach following the departure of Luke Walton. All the moves received critics as many people believed the team had given up too much to acquire Davis. The role players they acquired were not good enough, and that Vogel was not the best candidate to lead the team into championship contention. However, Jeanie never paid attention to the critics, instead deciding to trust her team once again, and things couldn't have worked better for them. As the season went on, most people thought the Lakers were an excellent team, but not good enough to make it past the Clippers or the Milwaukee Bucks in the playoffs. Then when the season restarted inside Disney World and the team had a slow start, many were saying the Lakers wouldn't even be able to make it out of the first few rounds of the playoffs. But as we all know, the Lakers followed the example of their owner and ignored all the critics. Then they made it to the championship round without needing to worry about the Clippers or the Bucks, as both teams failed to live up to their expectations. In the end, the team won its 17th title over the Miami Heat to tie the Celtics for the most championships in the league. In doing so, Jeanie also became the first female controlling owner to win an NBA championship. And now, as the Lakers look to continue their winning tradition during the coming seasons, they can look back at how it all started and will find Jeanie Buss at the center of it all. James, Pelinka, and even Johnson made it clear following their win in Game 6. She was the main reason why the team was able to return to its former glory, and they couldn't be more right about it. When things were looking like they couldn't get any worse, she could have decided to avoid internal conflict and legal disputes, but instead, she decided she'd had enough of the poor basketball choices and wanted to see the franchise her father had cared so much about return to where it should be. To do this, she relied on those who also wanted the Lakers to do better. Kobe was among those who told her she needed to reclaim what was hers to help the team start over if they ever expected to land a top-level free agent. Then she surrounded herself with people she could trust and who also wanted the same as her. Magic was the first to support her in the front office, and despite the way he handled his desire to take a step back, he was one of the main reasons why the acquisition of LeBron was possible. Pelinka was also an excellent addition despite the critics he received, and even James made great contributions to the organization, either with his play on the court or by helping to block all of the drama out. Her leadership resulted in history being made and in the first championship of a new era of Lakers basketball. And if we learned something along the way, is that she'll keep doing her best to help the franchise get better every time. At the end of the day, it's safe to say that Jeanie Buss is one of the best owners and leaders in the NBA. After finding her team in the middle of a disastrous situation, she decided to make something about it and was able to turn the Lakers back into a championship organization. Now, the only question there is whether the Lakers will be able to do it again in the following season. While it may be too early to make any conclusions, we can be sure that she and the rest of the team will be hungry to prove to the world they're here to stay. But now, what are your thoughts about the Lakers' turnaround? Do you believe they'll be able to keep winning as much as they used to do before? Let us know in the comments. We hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, give us a like and subscribe to our channel to get more NBA content. We are Courtside.